Whoever said it's always lonely at the top didn't spend enough time in the mountains. Certainly, there's solitude to be found up here, and thousands of acres of powdery peace. But only if the lifts are turning.
Today, few flurries to before, expecting, and light winds gusting to 40.
Introduced in 1936, the chairlift revolutionized modern skiing. Supported by the invaluable few who get up into the mountains long before the sun does. These chariots of steel and cable connect the valley to the peaks like veins to the heart. And for a community of eager skiers and snowboarders, each chairlift is a conduit to our dreams. At Whistler Blackcomb, the chairs first started spinning in January of 1966. Many tales have been shared on those seats since then, and many friendships formed. Heck, I once scored 6 tickets to Motley Crue just because I got on the right crystal chair at the right time. So many who arrived to ride these lifts for a season have stayed for the rest of their lives. Families have been started, traditions passed down. Lives changed with every lap. As the bull wheel turns, so are the ski days of our lives. These lifts have built communities, relationships, and families, but it all falls to pieces without a veritable army of passionate, super early birds, those willing to sacrifice their powder days and get the lifts going every morning for the greater good of others. To ride a lift into these mountains is to travel down the roads of history, even as you're lifted upwards. Because we all know, whatever goes up must come down.
X, let's go, time to go. Where's your jacket?
Just as every snowstorm blankets these mountains a little bit differently, the idea of a local is constantly evolving and swirling in the flurries of ski town culture. The wide-eyed first-year lifties and the grizzled duct-tape veterans may have their own definitions. So will the family putting down intergenerational roots in these mountains. For some, insanity is the name of a legendary pillow pow zone under the red chair. For others, it's just the electric vibe that crackles through every lift line after a big snowfall.
Pow day morning. I'm up first. I check the weather. He probably bounces out of bed second.
Ready to shred, bud?
Yep. How much pow snowed last night?
I know. I don't know.
Sometimes he's first if he knows it's a lot.
He's usually pretty amped to get out for a pow day.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Got everything?
Yep. Think so.
Oh, Creekside, why we like to go there. That was the first place that I was introduced to when I met Justin.
I think Creekside's the locals base just because it's more rooted in history in a way. If you go back 25 years, the base there was a dirt parking lot and a gondola. And then as it grew, I think it's still sort of maintained that aura of the locals kind of rolling to Creekside and going up for the day.
But there's one thing everyone agrees on. For those classic Whistler Pow days, you gotta get up early.
Oh, the energy in the lineup on a pow day is pretty high. Everybody's stoked. You're seeing lots of familiar faces.
There's always hoots and hollers and lots of high fives and stuff.
Yeah, everybody's pretty amped for the day.
I mean, for me, it's pretty special to be snowboarding with the family in general, but to have X able to come follow us into my kind of favorite zones on appropriate occasions, it's pretty amazing.
It's so fun to see and watch and see where he chooses to go, because Justin will put in a line, and X doesn't necessarily follow it directly. He likes to find his own little way.
This question for you, X. What's it like snowboarding with your parents?
Fun. They're teaching me all kinds of new things and helping me. Teaching me how to do these things like in a certain way, like don't go there, cliff. Or yeah, go there, pillows.
It's pretty rad to see that kind of community and family that's out on the mountain. And they're just as pumped to see us out there with X as we are.
Much has changed over the past 5 decades at Whistler Blackcomb. Some chairlifts are faster, some became gondolas, some are long gone. Shout out to the Orange Chair Double. You were hard to load and slow to go, but some of us still miss you. But what hasn't changed is the spirit of the community. The workers and the locals that show up every pow day. And those friends from afar that keep coming back.
On a pow day on Whistler Blackcomb, I think everyone has their own strategy and their own routes that they stick to. And I think one of the funnest things is riding with new friends and figuring out their routes to see if they work better than yours.
Chairlifts, by their nature, move us from one place to another, from bottom to top, village to peak. They're almost like time capsule spaceships connecting our realities to our dreams and to the opportunity to expand our horizons forever. And just as the peak-to-peak gondola connects Whistler to Blackcomb, every lift on the mountain is an opportunity to bring us closer to the places, people, and experiences we love. I was never a ski patroller. The first morning laps look appealing, of course, and so did the explosives. But getting up that early was never going to happen. And of course, safety is priority number 1 in these mountains. It's not a race. Having said that, shout out to Blackcomb for opening the Alpine first since about 1980. Actually, no, that's not true. Forget I mentioned that, really. Go to Whistler. Go Whistler. But on a serious note, there's more to the idea of access than simply riding a high-speed 4-seater couch up into the goods.
Snowboarding is my life. It's been my life since I first bought my first snowboard when I was 15 years old. I haven't put it down. I once did 350 days in one season, 1 year, North and Southern Hemispheres.
For leaders like Sandy Ward of Indigenous Women Outdoors, there's a whole nother world of untapped mountain potential just beyond the alpine lifts and the backcountry gates. And Sandy is always ready to help others discover it.
Enchas Kalkalokik, Lulwatkan, Staptiumkan, Ukmishkan, Shamat Squatchich Sandy Ward. Thank you, Creator, for this beautiful land. Thank you, Mother Earth, for this amazing territory. And I'm asking for safe passage for all of us for the day. And welcome to the traditional territory of the Liotlat and the Squamish people.
My experience as a split boarder, I was always the only Indigenous person in the parking lot. I was always the only one I would see. It's important for Indigenous women outdoors to create that supportive space because there's a lot of intergenerational trauma that needs to be thought of. So we're going into a very unpredictable space. So to have that nice connection with the group that you're with is going to make you feel that much safer and that much more supported that you're going to want to go and continue your education on your own. So we're just creating that space to get women out there.
Sometimes that helps me narrow it down whether I'm getting a false strike or a real strike.
For me, it's not just the access and the passes. I think it's the support and the training and the guides and just making me feel safe to be in a new space.
When I'm in the backcountry, it's a slow process. I never rush. I take in the views, I take in the smells of the forest, and in doing so, you're connecting with the land and realizing that the land is speaking to you. And if you're listening, that's going to keep you a little bit safer. The first time anybody ever goes out there, always so stoked and they don't really know what's going to happen, and then seeing them get that first line of absolute fresh pow, the stoke in their faces when they come down to meet me is amazing.
Indigenous outdoors is like the most amazing thing ever. It makes me feel, it lifts my spirits up. Seriously, my heart's always full every time I do an event with IWO. Nakumik.
Seeing people continue their education has been the best part of running the IWO program. The ability to share my knowledge with other Indigenous women and get them to the point where they feel comfortable going out and hanging out in simple terrain in the backcountry has been really amazing. And just to see them grow and see them go on to further their education has been just something that I'll never forget.
Since the first lifts started turning, Whistler's always drawn those who like to go higher, explore deeper, and shred harder. And for generation after generation, Whistler's network of lifts and T-bars have fueled literal lifetimes of joy and exploration. And yet, throughout all those years, the starting point for that spirit of pushing our limits and our personal boundaries has almost always been the same: Whistler Peak Chair. With iconic lines in every direction and the winds of Whistler history blowing over each ridgetop, this is Whistler's proving ground, where legends are made, crowds are amazed, and après heroes are born. Bonus points if you're still wearing your ski boots in the nightclub. The peak of Whistler Mountain is where talent, determination, and raw courage meet a mountaintop of almost endless possibility. And these days, few riders are tapping into that potential as deeply as the Whistler Freeride Club.
Whistler Freeride Club was started 22 years ago by Derek Foos, our head coach. He started it because he saw a gap in skiing. He saw athletes that were into skiing kind of lose that passion, lose that love, and really just wanted to make sure that people stayed in skiing for as long as possible.
Sending it is, I guess, what they love to do. A lot of the time it's us actually kind of bringing the reins in and just educating them on what is going to set them up for success.
You give them the reasons why something works and why something doesn't work. They learn from it, and then they start making smart decisions because of that guidance.
I love showing kids what the mountain can offer, right? What we have in our backyard here in Whistler and what we can do with those mountains that's not maybe as conventional as some of the other disciplines of skiing.
So we want to set ourselves in the balance instead of letting the air set our balance.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Working with the athletes on terrain knowledge, terrain choice, working with the different aspects. Every day a storm comes through or weather pattern comes through that changes the way the mountain works. And so making sure that the athlete understands how that happens. So it doesn't just take them skiing with me to allow them to ski safely in that terrain, but they're starting to learn how to work with the mountain and so that they can do it on their own when they graduate from the club.
It's totally good to go. Nice solid pop.
Well, that was so sick.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, yeah.
I think the Freeride Club puts on a show on the mountain every weekend, and that's something that's fun for a lot of people to watch, and especially now that it's growing. Nice! I also teach at the high school, and I get to see kind of kids talking about are you gonna try out for Freeride this year? Or what about you?
Skiing with the alumni, as I get older, I gotta live vicariously through what they can do. As a peer, it's super fun, and it's awesome to get out there after all these years of knowing them and watching them grow up and seeing what they now do on the mountain. It's beyond what I was doing. Connor Warnock was in the club when I first started. He brings the vibe every single day. He's got a really good eye for terrain, and man, does he like skiing. Ryder Buffoni, yeah, an amazing athlete. He's a real technician. Nothing that guy does is by mistake. He really thinks everything through.
Yeah, dude. That was so sick.
We have such a great community built around the club. Parents are so involved. Everyone, they all want to be part of it. And so I think that just drives you to get better and better and better when you see your friends succeeding, when your parents are supporting you, when your older brother or your older sister is doing really well and you just kind of want to achieve the same thing.
Carleen Laughlin was an amazing athlete. She was in the club, she competed alongside her older sister. She loves getting out there, she loves sharing her passion with those athletes. And I don't think I've ever seen her not smiling.
I think it's not a coincidence that there's been so many Freeride Club members on the world tour or getting roles in ski movies and stuff like that. I love that when you watch the Freeride World Tour, it's I'm excited to get up early because I get to watch actually some of my teammates competing on a world stage.
Being at the finish line of the Freeride World Qualifier, getting to watch a lot of our alumni compete live, not as a coach, but as a peer, and just cheering them on was so amazing. It was awesome just watching them, all throw fairly clean runs down. And it was also awesome watching them ski terrain that we've skied for a long time, but they skied it in a way they've never skied it before. They looked at it through new, older eyes. It was amazing watching Jackson Bathgate take first place. I can't even articulate how proud I am as a peer, as a mentor, to watch them take a stage that, we could only dream of. It's incredibly rewarding.
There's a certain joy in crafting a life where you can work in the mountains, in combining your purpose and passion with your favorite place to play. Those daily heroes who keep the runs pristine and the chairs turning, who spend their lives immersed in that which draws each and every one of us to these snowy peaks and forests, and who commute with cables and cabins, not tires and pavement. But there are also a select lucky few who have pioneered a new way to parent, and who took Bring Your Kid to Work Day to new heights.
It's kind of on another level when it's your own kid. You're happy for him, and you're happy for having attained a cover, but when it's a cover together, it's kind of like everything times two, really. My reason for wanting to be a photographer was to shoot skiing. It wasn't just to be a photographer. I saw skiing as a way for me to be able to ski and to travel and live in the mountains. That was a real drawing card for me.
When people ask me about my dad, I tell them he is a legendary ski photographer, because that's what he is.
You know, there weren't many people doing it when he was doing it. We weren't making a lot of money. I was patrolling at that point when he was starting, so at least one of us was making money. And it was definitely a project that was gaining momentum.
I was very lucky to have Whistler Blackcomb as a base, as a photographer, because you didn't really have to travel. You stand at the roundhouse and you look around, it's kind of a series of snapshots or photographs, you know, all around the place. This is on Blackcomb up on 7th Heaven. I remember the exposure was 250 at f4, and I believe it was on 100 speed film. It was one of my favorite pictures of the time.
Probably after like 10, I really kind of realized how cool my dad's job was. Moving forward, you know, when I turned 13, I was shooting with him quite a bit. I think the first cover we ever got on SBC Skier, I was either 13 or 14 years old.
Oh, no way. That's the first one?
It was really convenient. I had a kid who liked to get up early and get first tracks, and it just seemed like a natural progression for he and I to work together.
There's very limited numbers of people in the world that get to kind of work with their parents in the way that I got to work with my dad, and to be able to share that time together in the mountains has been pretty incredible.
Gail is really the glue that holds the whole thing together. She is easily half any success that I've had, which isn't necessarily a huge amount or anything, but it's because of her.
It's been quite the ride. Well, you know, I took care of Paul's inventory of slides, you know, so the courier was coming and going a lot during the week. I put the submissions together. He was too busy on the hill.
Nice. This Whistler area is pretty unique. We have so many of the industry's top people. That's kind of incredible to think about, that you've got that level of talent right here.
It's been really cool watching my dad kind of go from like truly at the top of the game. One moment I always really think of actually was Matthias Fredriksson came to Whistler. Matthias kind of asked my dad if he could go shooting with me, because at that point my dad was the only photographer I'd actually worked with. That was the first time I think I'd really had someone say my dad was like a true inspiration to them. I mean, when we're out shooting, I'd say we're more like best friends than father-son for sure. Like, we're chirping each other. We work together really well as a team. He's the best co-worker out there.
Hey, Adam, good to go whenever you're ready.
Okay, bud, I'll be ready in about 5. Just give me a second.
You know, the old man's 69, and he's been through it. So his body's definitely a little rough these days, but when we do get out, I think we appreciate it even more now, because it's just like, you know, there's only X amount of time left where we're gonna truly be able to go out and go shooting together, so we gotta take advantage of it while we still can.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with slowing it down a few notches either. Those quiet chairlift moments to simply sit and watch and appreciate the surroundings. Sometimes those lift rides of peace are what we remember the most from our ski days. Except on Blackcomb's cat skinner chair, of course. Originally known as Chair 4, cat skinner started as just another way to get up the hill. But when snowboarding brought the big jumps to town, every ride became a visual feast of airtime and talent, and every chair was a front row seat to progression.
The cat skinner chair was like, honestly, back in my day when I started snowboarding, you could see every pro snowboarder either on the chairlift in the park or at the bottom. So you kind of were like fanning out a little bit. Yeah, now the new cat skinner chair, definitely you're still gonna see all the pros, the next generation of riders. And then also you'll see like the moms are out there too, crushing it in the park. We still love being in the park and kind of pushing our limits. So when I see Greta and Leanne and Dom and like all these snowboarders in there again, I'm like, yes, we still got it, we're still doing it, and we still love it. And I can't wait to see their kids in the park as well, because I know that's bound to happen.
Birds and pets and big ones.
So the Canadian national team, when they have training camps, I bring clients to be like, these are how big the jumps are at the Olympics. So you get an understanding. And like the next generation to watch them training in there is kind of mind-blowing for a lot of people.
And that's why we keep coming back. Because every lift ride brings us the fresh opportunity to carve a new track and write a new story. For a run, a day, a season, or a lifetime. There's a beating heart inside every mountain, and the chairlifts are the arteries that keep it alive, with laughter, friendship, passion, and with pure powdery stoke. And through it all, the lifts keep turning. These complex systems of metal and cable connect us to the land and each other, and to the primal magic of speed and adrenaline and dancing with gravity in the most beautiful playground on the planet. So, are you a Whistler or Blackcomb dog? Cat or squirrel? Hot dog. We have a wiener.